Self-reflection, that's the biggest thing you ever can do. That's personal development. How are you going to change you? Because a lot of times we point the finger at other people. And for me, growing up, I'm going to tell you this quick story real quick. I'm going to try to speed it up real fast. But growing up, I grew up without my father. It was my mom and my dad, but they split up early in life. My father lived in Jersey. My mother moved to Pennsylvania. And grew up in Pennsylvania, I would see my father every other weekend. And, you know, with my father, it was always a good time. Whenever he saw me, he always tried to create these great moments in my life because he didn't see me very often. So when I got the chance to see him, I was always excited, super excited. So I remember this one day in particular, I knew he was coming to pick me up. I was excited. Like, I was super excited because I knew we was going to have a good time. And, you know, he leaves work at 4. I was going to get there by 5:30. By 3 o'clock p.m., I'm already at the window waiting for Dad to show up. And I'm excited for him to show. So, you know, fast forward, 5:30 hits. That's the time he should have been there by now. And I'm at the window waiting. I'm like, okay, Mom, what's going on? Where's Dad at? And fast forward, he didn't show it. He never showed that day. He never showed. I was at the window all day for hours waiting for Dad to show up because we always created these great moments. We always had a good time. And what I realized is at the time that I was spending at that window waiting, time is just passing by. Life was passing by. And I was looking out this window, blaming other people. So this transferred into my life for years following. And I began to look at my life through this window and waiting for people to show up for me and to do things for me, to make changes for me, for my teacher to give me extra credit, for people to do things for me. When I realized that I had to replace that window with a mirror and to see myself for who I was so that I can begin to start making the changes. Because nobody likes ugly when they look at it in the window. Look at it in the mirror. Nobody likes ugly. You want to change what you see. So that at some point in your life, you're going to have to replace that window with a mirror. And so often we try to point the finger at other people. And while you're doing that, you're standing there stagnant and life is going to continue to pass you by. So for me, what it was self-reflection. I had to begin to start looking at myself, the mistakes I've made, the choices I've made, the things that led me to the place that I'm at now. Before I could ever make any change, I had to make a movement within my own life for me to get to the change. Yeah, continue figuring out your question, but I wanted to tag on what he was saying. And, you know, if you ever want to make the change for yourself in your life, you want to make those changes, whether it's in business, whether it's anything, it has to start with the movement. You have to start, right? And what I feel like there's a process to get to the change. Change doesn't happen overnight, and so often we see these overnight successes. We have microwaves, we put things in there, and it cooks quick. Right? But life doesn't work that way. It takes time and it takes effort, and it has to begin with the movement. It has to start. You got to press that start button in your life for you to get there. And as you begin to start, as you begin to move, you start to gain momentum. You start to gain momentum because as you're moving, what I like to say, God begins to start pushing me because God blesses movement. And as you move, he's going to get behind you to push you forward. And you're going to start gaining momentum. It's like a ball, like a big boulder, and it starts to roll, and it's beginning this momentum. And when you want to make the change, you're going to come in contact with the very thing that you want to change. And it may be yourself, it may be family, it may be other things. But when you come in contact with that thing, because you have momentum, it has to change. Your life has to change if you move. But you got to continue moving. You can't stay stagnant waiting for other people to make the changes for you. For me, I lost my family. I lost everything. For me, it was kind of out of desperation, a little bit of both. Because we talk about that motivation and desperation. I was desperate because I made some mistakes in my life and I had to find a way to gain back what I had lost. So for me, I had lost my family. I lost my wife. I lost my children because I made some bad choices in my life. When I first came here in Atlanta, I was out here wilding.
There's a whole bunch of men in here telling.
Yeah. So y'all know the man to female ratio out here in Atlanta, right? Huh? I don't know, but it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's way more females than there is men out here. So when I moved down here, I got a job offer. Probably the best job I ever got, working in sales, making good money. And I started feeling myself a little bit, right? And I started messing with every woman that came past me.
That's the move.
That was the move. I started hitting everything. But I was married. I was married and I had 2 children. Right? I was married. I'm married and I had 2 children. I got two women pregnant throughout this time. Yeah. I was married with 2 children and I got 2 women pregnant. Right. I'll tell you, hold on. These 2 women were pregnant within the same month. I got them pregnant within the same week. Straight savage.
I didn't know this about you, okay?
Now, sis was telling everything. It's like, nah. Y'all want some popcorn? Y'all want some popcorn? Y'all want the rest?
I'm enjoying this.
Right, so I got 2 women pregnant within the same week, same month. My wife went away on vacation to Puerto Rico. I had the job offer, so I made the excuse. I need to stay back, babe, because I've been starting this job. I need to kind of get settled in. So you go ahead. She went ahead all right. And I came, and I was out here wilding. I was sleeping with everything that came my way, right? So I ended up losing my family. My wife left me. Ended up living within a extended stay. Roast infested. It was just nasty. I mean, I was itching every night under the covers. You know what I mean? I lost everything. Everything. I went home. Went to go visit my wife. And I went home and I was like, hey, you know, how you doing? I saw my son. He walked by the hallway. I'm like, Jaden, what's up, baby? Come here, give me a hug. He looked at me. He said, what's up, Dad? And kept it moving. Saw my daughter. She was a baby. My son was only 5 at the time. I saw my daughter. And I picked her up. She started crying because she didn't know who I was. She started crying and I started crying. I slid down the back of the wall, just slid down the wall because I was heartbroken, literally heartbroken. So I had to try to figure out what it took to get back what I always wanted, what I always had. I had the dream life. And many people, even you, have what it takes to get what you want. And you know what it takes to get what you want. But a lot of times we're not willing to do what it takes to keep what we have once we got what we wanted. You got to be willing to put in the work to maintain what it is that you have. It's easy to get what you want, but are you willing to put in the work to maintain it? That's something you might want to start thinking about. So I had lost everything on this journey, but I got everything back though. I got it back. I got my wife. And I'm not trying to praise myself because, I mean, it took a lot of prayer, a lot of perseverance for my wife to stick in there. She's a strong woman for sticking in there. But it also took a lot of work on my side too. I mean, I had to climb a mountain. I remember nights sleeping on the couch, every single night on the floor, because my wife wouldn't let me come into bed with her. So what I say is, if you ever want to make changes within your life, if you want to go to the next level, it's going to take discipline. And that's what y'all learning here in school is discipline. Every single day y'all are coming into school, you're learning new material. You got to study that material. You got to write it down. What it is, it's not the information that's so important. It's the discipline that you're gaining throughout that time, throughout that process. And what I had to learn during that time, I had to discipline myself and I had to show myself approved so my wife would receive me back. And a lot of times we're not willing to put in that work to get what we want out of life. You just like what it looks like, but you don't like what it feels like. It's hard, it's difficult, it hurts. But you got to be willing to put yourself through that process to really get what you really want.
You just said people are afraid to commit, basically.
People are afraid to commit. And why I feel so? We live in a democracy. We got the freedom to do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. I mean, you can literally do whatever you want day by day. And it's a gift and it's a curse because we have that freedom. But nowadays, nobody's willing to stand on anything anymore. Nobody's willing to commit to anything because there's so much freedom. You got the freedom to leave at your leisure. And because I had that much freedom, or so I thought, within my marriage, I left whatever I felt like leaving. So like we have to start thinking, what I'm trying to get y'all to get to is a kingdom mindset. Get past the democracy, that's what we live in, but you gotta have a kingdom mindset. The most common words that a child says at 2 years old is no and mine. No and mine. Those are kingdom words. No, you cannot have this, and this is mine because you ain't taking it. So y'all have to get to that mindset like, listen, I'm going to commit to the process because I am a king and it's mine for the taking. And nobody's willing to do that anymore. Everybody's so that democracy type of mindset, everything just goes and leaves as it please. But you got to start becoming the king of your life, ascend to your throne and rise up to be who you are. You got to say, listen, this is mine. No, you're not taking it because it's mine. I'm going to take this. I'm going to own this. This is my life. This is my mind. This is my future. I'm going to own this. Nobody can take it from me. And I had to start renewing my mind to start thinking that way because I was lost, man. I was out here, like I said, I was out here tripping. So just remember though, like going forward and whatever it is, that like if you operate as a king, everything has to fall at your feet. Everything must bow to you. And you got to start walking in that. I am a king of my life. And whatever you go against, it cannot stop me. What makes a king great is about he broadens his kingdom. He spread. That's what makes a king great, not just by being a king, but he expands his kingdom and he wins wars. The way you expand your kingdom is you got to win these wars. And there's wars in our lives, and the things that we got to tackle. There's things that we got to beat. And for me, it was sex. It was infidelity. It was money. It was drugs. All those things were the things that I had to beat. I had to tackle. I had to win those wars for my kingdom to expand. So just continue to fight, continue to press forward, and y'all will get what y'all want out of life. But you got to be willing to commit to the process.